I'm very reluctant to comment on political things. But I really feel as though I have to call out this elephant in the room. The election campaign that we've just witnessed from afar did not display any environmental, social, or governance sensibilities. So here I was yesterday afternoon with a presentation prepared all about environmental and social and governance responsibilities. Then I'm thinking, wow, does any of this really matter anymore? Upon reflection, I decided, yes, I believe it still does matter to us. It still matters to us. So I'm going to do this quick run through for small businesses on ESG. What it's about, why do I need to know, and what do I have to do about it? Now, the words environmental, social, and governance make more sense if you put the word responsibilities at the end. So what I'm talking about is your environmental, social, and governance responsibilities. And it's not new. I hear a lot of, oh, this is just another new thing we've got to do. It's another thing that people have thought up or the government has thought up. It's actually not new. We can trace the origins of corporate social responsibility, environmental social governance back to the 1600s and the start of what is called the joint stock corporation, the very first companies that were formed. Now, we don't have time to go into that today, but in the book that I'm currently co-authoring with Dr. Stephen Morse, we will have a section that goes through the history of environmental social governance and corporate social responsibility. So this concept of us having a responsibility as business owners beyond just making a profit, it goes in and out of vogue. Now, my argument has been over the last 10 years, and certainly since COVID, that it is currently in vogue and becoming more and more and more prevalent in our daily discourse. However, yesterday's election result in the United States has made me think, is it really in at the moment or is it out? And I guess for all of us, particularly those of us on the other side of the Pacific, we have to wait and see. So let's start with the E. The E is for environmental responsibilities. And this is what we do. We intuitively know that throwing rubbish, etc., is the wrong thing to do. But often we just don't think about what we do in our lives. A couple of years ago, pre-COVID, I was on a panel at a conference in Singapore. Now, the conference was about mass participation sports events. Now, think about Boston Marathon, London Marathon, that sort of stuff. Now, we all love to participate in those activities, but they generate tons, millions of tons of rubbish. The T-shirt that you get, it's wrapped in plastic, and then 10 of those are wrapped in plastic, and then 100 of those are wrapped in plastic, and then they're on a pallet, and then the pallet's wrapped in plastic, and then there's all the plastic water bottles that the people drink out of. So the mass participation sport industry was actually starting to think about its environmental impact. But there's a lot more than just throwing plastic bottles on the ground. It's about the use of renewable fuels. It's about not using as much fossil fuel. It's about being more efficient with our energy and our water use. The social. Now, the social stuff is what a lot of small businesses do anyway. It's about supporting your local community. Now, how many local businesses sponsor the jerseys for the junior soccer team, or the business owner takes the jerseys home and launders them during the week so that they're fresh for the next weekend's matches? It's about pay. It's about fair work. It's about discrimination at work, harassment at work. It's about working conditions. And it's also about a thing called modern slavery. Now, I know every Australian business, and me included, thought, crikey, modern slavery, that doesn't affect me. It's got nothing to do with me here in Australia. Well, unfortunately, it does. We've all heard, or maybe have heard on the TV, about immigrant workers, particularly the ones that come in to pick the agricultural crops or work in the agriculture industry, who are not paid correctly, are not given the reasonable working conditions. So modern slavery, even though we might think it's something that really doesn't affect us at all here in Australia, it actually does. And Dr. Stephen Morse, who's going to be my co-author for our book on ESG coming out early next year, is actually an expert in this area. He's had a lot of experience of dealing with big companies trying to track down modern slavery in their supply chains. Now we get to governance. This is the one that probably gets the least attention. What's governance? Governance is how you operate as a business, how you and your people act. It's about the systems that you have, your policies, your procedures, your practices, even your rituals, the way people go about things. It's about your risk management. Have you really looked at whether you are in control or know what to do about the risks that your business faces? And of course, I wrote an entire book about this called Small Company, Big Crisis. The bottom line of governance is being ethical, transparent, and accountable. And this is where I got into a bit of a dilemma about the US election result. On display was behavior that was not ethical, not transparent, and not taking accountability. So that's the governance thing. Why? Why do we have to worry about this ESG thing? As I said, it's cyclical. But the number one reason why we have to do it, and we should always be doing it, whether it's cyclical, in, out of fashion, whatever, is that it's just the right thing to do. Doing the right thing at all times. And especially doing the right thing when no one else is looking. Now, if you go down this path of ESG and taking your responsibilities seriously, you can save cost. The solar on your roof saves a lot of cost in electricity. If you are not embracing these principles, you will find it harder and harder and harder to obtain finance for your business. Your shareholders will be watching you. Your employees will be watching you. Now, we've all heard about these millennial and Gen X people. They want to work for organizations that reflect their values. That means companies that do take their environmental, social, and governance responsibilities seriously. If you want to attract the brightest of these, you will have to display those values. Your customers. We all live by selling something. If you are not according with the values of your customer, they have a lot of other choice and they will simply go elsewhere. Our environmental consultancy, Forte Consultants, won a major business award this year for business sustainability. We're very, very proud of our little small regional Queensland company. Now, having our business sustainability credentials on display means a great deal to us. It gives us a competitive advantage. It shows that we are an innovative and collaborative company. It shows that we are preparing for the future. In a minute, I'm going to get on to the legal side of things, and this is going to become not just an ethical and moral imperative, but a legal imperative. So by addressing these issues earlier and taking up the cudgel of your environmental, social, and governance responsibility, you are preparing your business for the future. And of course, reputation. Qantas. I'm sure you've all seen the Qantas news. That Qantas, our Australian national carrier, even though it's not a national carrier anymore, it's a private company, one of the best, most trusted brands in the world, has trashed its reputation by selling tickets on flights that were already cancelled. I cannot imagine the thought process and the conversations that were going on in the boardroom or in some sort of executive suite to sanction that decision. As I said, Qantas, probably one of the most trusted and best and most valuable brands in the world, has undergone immense damage by breaking its social contract and its governance contract with us, the consumers, and its shareholders as well. Last of all, the reason why we have to be taking notice of this is the law. Now, I mentioned modern slavery. There is already modern slavery reporting requirements for companies that turn over more than $100 million a year in Australia. Those companies have to trace and then report on any modern slavery in their supply chains. So if Nike is having its shoes manufactured in Bangladesh or somewhere with slave labor, they must not only find it, but report on it. As of the 1st of January 2025, there will be climate reporting for companies in Australia over $100 million in turnover. Now, I can hear you say, but I'm not a big company. I don't turn over anywhere near $100 million. Remember those two magic words that I mentioned, supply chain. If you are somewhere in the supply chain of a big company, it's relevant to you. It's relevant to you. So what will happen is, not immediately, but you and I, as suppliers to big companies, we're going to have to report or start reporting about our own environmental, social, and governance performance. What you will find is this coming up in contracts. So when you sign a contract to work for another organisation or government or council, etc., you're going to find specific clauses in the contracts about environmental, social, and governance obligations. And I know this happens in Queensland government contracts at the moment because I'm dealing with them. I haven't looked at contracts from other state governments or federal government yet, but I could almost bet that those things will be there. Not only will you have to report, you'll have to provide documentation that you are complying with what needs to be done in the supply chain of those big organisations. And of course, there's the financial implications. Yes, there will be some increased compliance costs. Yes, you may have to bring in an external advisor to help you along the way here, but there is still a lot that you can do yourself. And part of what I'm offering at the end of this session is to send you some links to some tools that we've already found out about that can help you. I already mentioned access to finance. If you are a large company now and you go to the banks and ask for money to perhaps do a new development or something like that, you may find that the bank simply won't lend you the money unless you are complying with your environmental, social, and governance obligations. So at this point, we're 20 minutes in. How are you feeling? Confused? Frightened? Run away? I don't want to know about this. just another thing to do. I don't want to engage. I just don't want to engage in this stuff. It's too hard. Or you're feeling a little bit more sanguine. Yeah, I think I can do it. But often I find now there's still a lot of small business owners and managers in the I can't do it category. I don't know how. I haven't got the time. I don't have the money. I've got more money to spend on this stuff. The other thing that you may come up against is pushback from your team. I use this word a lot when I'm working with small businesses trying to get their systems better, their governance systems better, how we do things. You can often find some pushback from team members. Why are you doing this? Why are you telling me how to do my job? I know how to do my job. You've got to learn, we will have to learn to prioritize which one of these things is going to be the most important for us to tackle first. And last of all, greenwashing. Now, greenwashing is when you say you're doing something that's environmentally friendly and actually you're not. The Australian corporate regulator is taking a dim view of this, and several large companies have already fallen foul and had judgments against them and had to pay fines for saying they're doing things that are environmentally friendly, but they're actually not. So beware of greenwashing. So what can you do? And the answer is lots. Lots of things that can be done without a lot of trouble, without a lot of time, and without a lot of cost. The very first thing you can do, and this is really easy to do with you and your team, is to have a look at the Millennial Development Goals. Now, these goals were developed by the United Nations at the turn of the millennium. These are the things that the United Nations and countries all around the world decided that we are going to work on to improve. Now, what many companies do is to choose one or two or three of those goals and use that to guide their business strategy. Now, obviously, I'm the part owner of an environmental consultancy. So we have adopted a couple of these goals as things that we wish to promote, we wish to work towards, and that guide our strategies. Number 6, clean water and sanitation. That's a dead giveaway, that one. Sustainable cities and communities. 4T Consultants is all about sustainability. And of course, life below water. So that is the very first thing you can do to start getting yourself and your team tuned in to a bigger purpose. Choose 1, 2, or 3 of the Millennial Development Goals to help guide your strategy and how you're thinking. Gee, I never thought of that, but it's so easy. For your environmental responsibilities, you can look at your energy, your paper use, your water use, your carbon footprint. Personally, in our company, we have targeted zero to landfill. We pay to have a lot of our waste recycled so that we're trying to get to that zero to landfill. Crisis preparation. How are you going to prepare for environmental crises? Social. Again, not hard. And a lot of us do this as a matter of course in our small businesses. We do support community groups. We do donate for the primary school raffle, etc. Are we providing fair wages and conditions for our team members? Do we shop local, or do we default to going online and buying something from Amazon? Personally, I don't believe that Amazon needs any more of my money. So I definitely and proactively try to shop local whenever I can. Safety. You know, anyone who's been listening to me talk or reading my writing, that one of my topics is safety. Safety in the workplace and safety in small business. Part of our social obligations, that people who work with us, engage with us, get to be safe while doing so. Of course, governance. I've mentioned risk management a couple of times. One of the participants here today is an expert in cybersecurity, and that is a major, major issue. I attended a seminar a week ago. In 2022, there were 3 billion password attacks per month. In 2023, there were 30 billion password attacks per month. We really need to be taking notice of this. A culture book. Now, I'm happy to share our company's culture book with you. Yes, we have a vision statement. Yes, we will have a mission statement. We have all that stuff. What it is a good idea to do is to bring all that together in a culture book that clearly spells out how you operate, how you deal with each other as team members, and how you deal with anybody outside. Then, of course, there's monitoring your ESG performance. Now, this is still really up in the air. There's so many standards, reporting systems. We all know that when we do our financials at the end of the year, there are standards that we have to report against. You can't just make up your profit and loss statement and your balance sheet statement however you feel like presenting them. And we're still going through that sorting out phase with ESG performances and ESG reporting. So I've got a challenge for you. I want you to have a look, have a think. Where do you sit now? Now, as always, there's a group of companies that are down here in the red area. They're the ostriches. They've got their head in the sand. They're resisting. Not going to happen. I don't want to know about it. I'm afraid of it. I don't know about it, and I'm denying that it's going to affect me. That's why you can see on that diagram there's a dotted line there, and that's the fear, ignorance, denial line. For those who go past the fear, ignorance, denial line, I call them the tiptoers. They're cautiously testing how we're going to do this, starting our ESG journey. We're testing the small steps and we're just gauging the results. Those people progress on to be the green sprouts. Now, these people are trying, these companies are actively working on their ESG practices. They've made a commitment. That commitment is now starting to take root and grow throughout their business. Now, there is a danger here. The danger is what I call the doing enough line. Yeah, we're doing enough. We're doing this, we're doing that. Monitoring the number of reams of paper we're using every year. Yes, we're paying our people correctly. Tempting to stop at the doing enough line. But here's the challenge for you and your business to move over into the Champions League. These are the companies who are going beyond their legal requirements. They're driving meaningful change in the world. They have a solid and transparent ESG strategy. They're leading the pack. Now, I hope that my presentation today has planted some thought seeds. I may not have prompted you to take action tomorrow, to rush home now after you've listened to this webinar and start making changes in your business immediately. But what I do hope is that I've planted some thought seeds that will get the ostrich's head out of the ground, get you tiptoeing across the space and get those green sprouts going so that eventually you can become an ESG champion. So your recording and any Q&A answers will be on their way soon. So is there any questions?
I'm going to start with this, Bronwyn. That was great. Just tell me, what do you say to people who kind of come at this concept of, excuse me, this is just another version of climate change. ESG is just like, a climate change. It's a fad. It's a something that, one more thing I have to think about. Yes, I've got to do some stuff, but is ESG sometimes confused with the climate change narrative? Do you come across that as an excuse or as a confusion for people?
ESG is, let's turn that around. Climate change is obviously a very small part of the environment part of ESG. Mm-hmm. Now, the ESG climate change gets the headlines at the moment, and rightly so, I say, as the owner of an environmental business. But it's our environmental performance is what we're doing to help mitigate climate change. But it's also what we're doing to help mitigate microplastics in our bloodstream. It's also what we're doing to help mitigate plastic in the oceans that kills fish and turtles. It's also what we're doing to do any other number of things that will work towards a better environmental outcome. Again, our environmental company, we work with our clients to use sustainable environmental practices when they say plant a crop or build a dam or build a road. So while climate change is certainly a very important part of the E, it's certainly not the whole argument.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
One more question. Do you run workshops, or are you running workshops around helping people to understand how to do just the basics of A, B, and C around getting started?
Thank you very much for reminding me of that, Dixie. And the answer is yes. I've mentioned a couple of times during the webinar that I am writing a book on ESG. Current tentative title, ESG for SMEs. As I said today, this can be seem quite overwhelming. Too much to do. I don't understand it. So yes, the book that I'm writing with my co-author, Dr. Stephen Morse, will provide a pathway for SME owners and managers to put things in place. Out of that, we will most definitely be running workshops, education sessions, webinars throughout 2025. I already have 2 councils and 1 chamber of commerce where I have been engaged to deliver a series of ESG workshops to their constituents throughout 2025. So yes, watch this space. There will be a lot more coming.
Fantastic, thank you.
All righty, well, if there's no more questions, I will let you all get back to your work for the day, and hopefully I've planted that little thought seed. Have a great day and a great weekend, everyone. Bye.